Today we are harvesting our flower corn. I actually already pulled some of these a few weeks ago because they were drying out, but most of these weren't ready yet, so we're going to pull them today now that they're dry. This is Painted Mountain flower corn. We really like this variety because we have a short season. We've tried some of the larger kinds of flower corn and they didn't do so well in our area. It was just kind of iffy whether they had time to ripen or not. And then also, since these tassel really early, I can also plant sweet corn and I don't have to worry about the two of these crossing. So I'll show you. We pick out the color seeds that we want. Painted Mountain is a mix of lots of different Indian corns, and it's bred for our area, so it will do well in drought or in short seasons. It can grow just about anywhere, but it's a mix of reds, whites, yellows, tans, blue, purple, you name it. And for our cornmeal that we make, we like to select just one or two colors so the flavor is not so murky. So this year we planted about 90% white kernels and 10% red. And you'll see that we still did get a variety of colors because these are so genetically diverse, but that narrows it down a little bit so that our cornbread tastes better. And we will further separate these when we go to grind them. I'm going to shell the ears that are mostly white. I'll shell those separately than the ones that are mostly red. Okay. All right, I've got some helpers out here. So we're going to get the rest of these ears of corn pulled off the plants, and then we will pull back the husk like this. That makes sure that if there's any moisture stuck in here, it doesn't mold. I have made that mistake before, where I left the husks on when I dried them, and then when I went to pull these off, there was some mold in here and my ears were ruined. So we'll pull these back. The ones that I already did, I actually hung up inside, so I can do about 20 at a time just on a nail above my wood stove, and they dry out really, really fast that way, and then you can just throw them in a box. But these we'll probably just throw loosely in a box, and we'll keep rotating them, flipping them over to make sure all sides get dried out, and that will be in a well-ventilated dry area. And then once they're dry, I will show you how we get the kernels off of the ears and how we grind them into flour for cornbread. You ready to get started?
Mama, can you help me with the thread, guys? It's big. No.
one.
I'll separate this one and put it in your box.
Okay. Okay, I got this corn brought inside, and I've hung up as much as I can to dry. These are just thumbtacks stuck in the wall. And then I hang a string over it and tie 4 ears of corn to each string. This works really well because they get a lot of airflow this way. I've never had them mold when I hang them, but some years I have too much corn to hang all of it up. So the rest of it I have in boxes, just in shallow layers. So these, I just rotate the corn around so that each side gets exposed to air. I do that every day or two to help these dry out. And they were already pretty dry before I brought them inside, so I'm not real worried about them molding. But we definitely want to get some airflow in there to help them dry out. All right, I'm going to go shell some of these that I harvested a couple weeks ago, so they're a little bit drier. These probably could be used. They're dry enough, but they're not dry enough to store. They would probably mold if I were to shell them and store them right now. But today I am going to take some that have been drying for 2 or 3 weeks now, and I will show you how I shell them and make some cornbread. I have some of my red corn here. I usually separate the ears that are mostly red from the ones that are mostly white, just because we think that it tastes a little better if you separate the different colors. So I snapped off the husks. These, you can snap them off or twist them like that. Get rid of that. And I have a corn sheller here. You can also do this just by rubbing 2 ears of corn together. Since I have a corn sheller, I'm going to use it. So we'll see if the size is right on this. Yeah, that looks pretty good. This is adjustable for different size ears of corn. And sometimes you'll have to run them through more than once. It doesn't get all the So that pretty much got all of them. Got 2 kernels left on here that it didn't get. This one's got a couple left on it that I'll just pop off with my fingers. One thing that I love about corn is that it's really easy to grow and harvest with hand tools. A lot of grains are really hard, especially if you want to grow a significant quantity. They're just really hard to grow without the right equipment. But corn, we just dig a row. My kids walk down the row and put the seeds in. And then harvesting, as you saw, we just walk along and pull these ears off of the plant. And then for the shelling, let's see if I can show you how to rub 2 of these kernels together. You can get them started just with your hand by popping off a few of these kernels. Let's see if I can show you closer here. You can get them started just by popping off a few kernels with your fingers. And then if you you get them started and then you rub 2 ears together, you can get these off by hand that way. So then you don't even need a corn sheller. And there's also some cheaper types of corn shellers that are more basic. And even this type of thing is pretty inexpensive. These are typically bolted down. I don't normally have it in here. I just bring it in once or twice a year, so I don't even have mine bolted down. I just try to hold it steady as much as I can. And if it doesn't get all of them off, I just run it through again. today I'm trying to get enough to make a batch of red cornbread. When the rest of these are dry, I will go ahead and shell them all. And then the containers that I put them in, I will stick outside when it's freezing at night to kill any bugs that are in them. And then I'll just store the whole corn and grind it as I need it. In a pretty good sized bowl here. So I'm going to go and grind these. There are two ways that I grind this. The first way is in my Vitamix, which is really fast. I put about 1.5 cups at a time in there. And then you kind of rotate it between low and medium, high. And you can get it ground up in just a minute doing that. Today I'm going to use my Victoria hand crank. I use this once in a while. It's just more time consuming. You have to run the corn through a couple times. So mostly I have this for emergency or if my Vitamix ever kicks the bucket. Usually it's easiest if you can loosen this up a little bit for the first pass, and then you can tighten it and put it through again to make a little finer cornmeal, because this is pretty coarse. I think the hardest part of using the hand crank grain mill is holding the table still. I just use a little kitchen cart. And it wiggles around a lot. But this Victoria is a really inexpensive option for a hand crank. I think I paid around $60 for mine. And you can get them with a small hopper, and I got the larger sized hopper, which is a little bit easier for doing more at a time. As you can see, this is work, but it's doable. Almost done with the first pass. All right, I'll show you what this looks like. It's definitely cornmeal already, but there are some good sized chunks in it. And I don't want those in my cornbread, so I'm going to tighten it up a little bit and run it through a second time. And if you wanted a finer corn flour, you could even do 3 passes. So this is quite a bit finer. I would call that a cornmeal at this point. Not as fine as a corn flour, but this will work good for cornbread. So I'm going to finish this up, and then we'll go to the kitchen and have some cornbread. All right, so I have my cornmeal ready. This is about 3 cups of cornmeal. So I'm going to add 3 cups of flour. You can use regular whole wheat flour. Since I'm gluten-free, I'm going to be using almond flour, which blends really, really nicely with the cornmeal. It makes a really yummy cornbread, and it's also low carb. So we have 3 cups of cornmeal, 3 cups of flour. I'm doing about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And then I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of baking powder. This is something that's pretty fast to throw together, especially if you have some cornmeal already ground, where you use the Vitamix to blend it up or grind it up a little faster. We eat a lot of cornbread in our house. So I'm just going to get these dry ingredients mixed up a little bit here, and then we'll start adding the wet. Okay, so this takes 6 eggs, and I'm just going to add the wet straight in on top of the dry because I don't want to make more dishes. This is how I usually do it. I have 1/2 cup of honey here. You could also just use sugar. I think the honey tastes a little better, and it is better for you if you're able to do that. Now for a fat, you can use coconut oil. I think that it tastes better with either bacon grease or butter. Today I'm going to be using bacon grease because I have some on hand, and I don't have a cow and milk right now, so I'm having to buy butter. So bacon grease is going to be the cheaper option. So this is probably 1/3 of a cup, maybe a little bit more, of bacon grease that I just melted on the stove. If it's hot, you don't want to pour it straight over your eggs. So I'm going to mix the eggs into the flour a little bit first, just so we don't cook them before we're ready. I could have used a little bigger bowl here. Bigger bowl was dirty. So this will work. Alright, I'm going to add some vanilla. This is totally optional, but we really enjoy vanilla in our cornbread. So that was probably 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And then I'm going to add milk until I get the consistency that I want. This is fresh goat milk. You could also use cow's milk, almond milk, coconut milk. A lot of times I use homemade buttermilk, which is really good in cornbread. Whatever you have on hand. I've actually just used water at times when I don't have any milk on hand and I'm in a hurry. It's not quite as good with just water, but it does make pretty good cornbread still. So I'm going for kind of a pancake batter consistency, maybe a little bit thicker. Pretty similar to what you do for pancake batter. Alright, you can see it's got some pretty red flecks in it from the red corn. So today I'm going to be using muffin pans for this. And these will cook probably probably 20 minutes-ish at 350. I usually set a timer for 18 or 20 minutes and check it then, and if they're not quite done, give them a little bit longer. They should be golden brown on top and set in the middle. This is a pretty big batch, but we are a family of 6, and my kids will each eat 2 or 3 of these in one sitting, so they don't last that long in our house. But if you have a smaller family, you could half or even a third this recipe. Alright, I'm going to get these in the oven. It has been about 20 minutes. I just pulled these out of the oven and they smell amazing. A lot of times I serve these with soup. Today I'm going to serve them with some turkey that was homegrown and a fresh salad from our garden. But first I'm going to try one. Look at that. Such a good